Hi, guys. I always like to start talks with a little bit of science fiction, but this is actually from an advert. It was a series of ads made by Motorola back in the 60s that put TVs into the future to kind of make all their products feel like they are super futuristic. I think in this one, they haven't quite got flat-screen TVs, but maybe they've got global warming, because there's a kid kind of swimming outside the window with the rising sea levels. I should say a little bit about me. I'm Matt Webb. I'm from a design consultancy turned tech startup called BERG. A few years ago, we were named as one of the world's innovative companies. We've made video phones for Google, that kind of stuff. But the thing that's always really interested me is what happens when products come to life. So I'll just show you one quick example of what I mean. And this is a very kind of normal sort of idea we had, but we were asked by a magazine a while back to rethink the receipt. You know, the common receipt you get, like in a coffee shop or a cafe. And we said, what if this receipt was somehow connected to the network and knew who you were? How would it be different? And it started off like a regular receipt, this idea. And at the top, you can see it's the amount of money you pay for your sandwich and your coffee. Little bit of graphic design at the top to help with your expenses. But then it kind of understands that maybe while you're waiting for your coffee, you just have 30 seconds to wait and you want something to entertain you. So it makes a little fact, a little bit of entertainment out of the amount of money you're paying. In this case, £5.14. Well, in 514 AD, Vitellius leads a rebellion in the Byzantine Empire. Maybe only 30 seconds of interestingness. As you go down the receipt, it tells you a little about the stock levels, how much calorie you're consuming, but also it knows where you are because you're paying at a particular till, so it can use Foursquare in the recommendations API and tell you there's a gallery around the corner you should go to. At the bottom, it can remember who you are for next time, so maybe you can say, give me the news, or give me my calendar, or give me a voucher, those kind of things. So we've always been working in this area of what happens when things come to life. Which brings me to the Internet of Things. And I'm not going to give you an argument about why products are going to come to life. I'm just going to tell you that I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I fully believe this. The network is the new electricity. Connecting products is 21st century electrification. Everything around us, not just receipts, everything around us, plastic, metal, machinery, our products is all going to come to life, is going to speak back to us. And there was a moment this happened to me. I remember distinctly where I was when I started believing this. And it was about a couple of years ago. I was at a railway station in West London in a funny little town called Slough. And I was standing on platform 5. And the heavens opened. The angel spoke to me. It said, the Internet of Things is coming. And it was when I saw this. It's a dead dog in a box. It's called Station Jim. He's about 100 years old, this dead dog. I think it probably says more about Britain than it does about anything else. Station Jim was in the 1880s. He used to hang around on the platform at Slough railway station, about an hour outside London. And he used to do tricks for money. So he would sit there, and he would bark on command or climb a little ladder, and people would pay him money, and they would gather the money. They'd give it to worthy causes. And he would ride the trains, and he would talk to the passengers and talk to the staff at the station, and he was much loved by everyone, so loved that when he died, they stuffed him, put him in this box for 100 years. And he's still there. You can go and see him. But it's pretty freaky, right? So like any right-thinking man of the 21st century, when I met Station Jim, I said on Twitter, and this is me on Twitter, I'm at Genmon on Twitter, I say, Slough railway station has an ancient taxidermy dog in a glass box. He's called Station Jim, he's on platform 5, welcome to Slough. Imagine my surprise 2 minutes later when I get this from @Station Jim. Hi, Matt. It's okay for you to laugh. You're on the better side of the glass. So I reply, naturally a little freaked out, telling my friend Station Jim is now tweeting me, I wish the train would come soon. And Station Jim compliments my shoes, and suddenly we start having a conversation. You'd be tatty too if you had been in the box for 114 years. And now only I'm not having a conversation with a dead dog, but a sarcastic dead dog in a box. And at that moment, I was like, this is magical. This is a new experience. New experiences don't come along very often. This is definitely what the future will feel like. The world is going to be connected. It's not about the technology. It's not about the computers. It's not about the Wi-Fi. It's about this experience of talking to things in the world that talk back. And the world is about connected products. So that changed everything for me. We stopped doing kind of receipts and video phones for Google and research for Intel, and we started concentrating on making connected products. And we tried to make our own very peculiar, slightly magical, odd-feeling little product. And this is what we came back to the studio and we made, and it took a couple of years. Here's one here. This is Little Printer. So it's more like a little fax machine than a printer. It sits on your desk at home. It's got a little face, and you subscribe to different bits of content. And it makes a miniature personal newspaper for you every day. It's a very peculiar kind of device, because every time it prints out its own face. And it brings you headlines and recipe ideas and all those kind of things. And when we brought this out, we made it possible for anyone to make content for it, because we wanted to see what people would do. And we thought the kind of things that people would make for it, for other people to subscribe to, would be things like this. It would be useful bits of information, where you could subscribe to maybe what conference you were going to the next day, and it would give you a little map and where you were going. And it would be short, tweet-length science fiction, which is what this author, Jeff Noon, did. Actually, this isn't what people started making for Little Printer. They made things like this. This is Bumby's Jumbo Coloring and Rap Activity Book, where once a week he produces a different rap artist for you to color in. And they made stuff like this, which is a monster that comes out once a week for your kids to color in. We didn't expect what this product would be like when we brought it out. We only made it possible for other people to create things with it. And people started making things like this. Or like this. It ends up being a little like a text message machine. You can send messages to your friends at home or to other friends with little printers. And you can just make very small, very intimate little messages into your home. We hadn't really expected that either. On Valentine's Day, we made it so that every printer, and there were 1,000 at the time, would print out with heart-shaped sunglasses. So all the printers printed out looking like this. Most people were very excited. They put it all over Instagram. But a couple of people got in contact, and they were like, this is not OK. It's not OK for you to change a product that I've bought that's in my home and make it look like something different. Now, they'd already bought this. They'd already kind of said, I want this autonomous product in my home. Yet they were upset when we changed how it looked. And that's very interesting to me. It makes me realize that there's a greater level of intimacy with these connected products in the home that I really just wasn't used to. And this is the lesson I kind of drew out of making Little Printer as this experimental product, is that when something becomes connected, it becomes kind of a conversation between the brand and the customer. It's something which is a live interaction. In fact, I have another way of thinking about this, is that with connected products, we don't have customers. We have an audience. And in fact, that is just the way we think about Little Printer. We think about it more like a miniature, slow TV show, which is going into people's homes, that we can change continuously. We can learn from what our customers are thinking, what our audience is thinking, change it, add content, add features, have a conversation with them the whole time. Anyway, I thought instead of saying too many lessons about connected products, maybe I'll just show you pictures of factories for a little bit. This is the very first little printer we made very, very early on. We're a very small company, maybe only a dozen people in East London. And it amazes me that even small companies now can do manufacturing. It's something very new in the last few years. You don't need to be a company the size of Bosch or Sony to make something. The very first version of Little Printer was on a piece of electronics called an Arduino that anybody can develop on. Our CAD, we worked with manufacturing engineers, I think someone based between the UK and in Germany. And they helped us make this thing, which is the injection molding tool. It's about 650 grams of solid steel, and it sits in our factory in China. The injection molded plastic, it's molten plastic that shoots into the machine at about 100 degrees Celsius. It's the consistency of toothpaste. And it fills up the mold a bit like this. It's incredible that these things are accessible now. This used to be the kind of thing that could only be done by huge groups of engineers. But now in our kind of network society, I can be working with engineers in a factory in China I've never visited. I just see through photographs. But I can make something which is tangible that I can bring back to Europe and sell around here. In my head, factories used to be these things that were completely inaccessible, thousands of miles away, only made by experts. But for some reason, seeing pictures like this makes me think of products. Makes me think of products a bit like websites. Things that maybe I don't understand entirely what's going on below the surface, but they're immediate to me and malleable. Despite the fact that this hardware is so distant, there's something about making things that are connected and short-run and having these connections to China that brings services kind of right back into my homes. It makes things so immediate. And I think that's the second big lesson I have from connected products, is that it's something that's happening at the same time as a bunch of other trends. Things like 3D printing, things like Kickstarter, things like Alibaba, things like short-run manufacture are making it so that services are becoming more immediate, more high engagement, bringing them directly into the home. So when I start thinking now about Internet of Things or connected products, I start thinking, what other services could be brought into my home? What other services could I use to construct these new connected products out of? And I find the best thing to look at is to look at the connected products which are popular now and start imagining what services are there in these connected products that could maybe become the dominant paradigms of the future. Let me just pick out 4 products. My favorite connected product is, of course, the Kindle. You know, Amazon, this incredible company that's disrupted distribution twice. First, by taking the distribution of books from bricks and mortar shops to the web, and second, by taking distribution from the web to the point of consumption itself, right inside the book. But what would happen if we had payments in all kinds of products, in-app purchase in products all around us? The Fuel Band. I know that Nike, with their Fuel Band that monitors activity, I know this is being discontinued in order to make the app better. But there are things like the Fitbit and the Jawbone Up, which are being used a lot to monitor activity. And they're turning these individual experiences, like running and exercise, into social activities. What happens when the individual becomes social? One of these things that connected products can do. I don't know if you've encountered the product Glow Caps. It's a medicine bottle top that knows when you've taken your medicine. And it gets given to you by your doctor to make sure you complete your prescription. It's an interesting product because it uses the monitoring of individual behavior to encourage you to do, well, what you need to do. So if it's time to take your medicine and you ignore it, it lights up. Just a light comes on at the top of the bottle. If you ignore it and you still don't take your medicine, a ringtone plays. So it starts playing sound. What happens next if you still don't take your medicine depends on what kind of person you are. If you're financially motivated, it might threaten to put your insurance premiums up. If you're socially motivated, it'll call your daughter. For me, this is an interesting thing, maybe a little intrusive, but it's interesting because it's doing the things that we're very used to on the web and with mobile apps, kind of almost like Google Analytics and adaptive design, but it's doing it inside physical things. So what happens when we have analytics inside physical things? And then there's kind of blending the social online world with the physical world of walking around and trying things on. I'm not sure I completely buy this experiment, but it's interesting. It's in CNA in Brazil, they experimented with putting the number of Facebook likes a garment has on the hanger itself. It's a peculiar experiment. I'm not sure whether I like it. But it definitely changes this idea of knowing how things are socially enjoyed with the physical discoverability of products and putting them in the same place. For me, it's too early in this era of the Internet of Things and connected products to know really how these services can be put into products and bring them to life, how to create these great experiences. But I do know that the only way to do it is to get our hands dirty and experiment, to take the kind of the services from things like the Kindle or from these social hangers or from glow caps. You put them inside physical products and you just experiment. You iterate until you figure out something that feels good. So let me just show you 3 things that we've experimented with recently where we've tried to bring these services into physical things. The first is actually what happens to Little Printer. We found that people were beginning to use it in shops and in restaurants. So we've started taking the same ability to print from the web to connect to web APIs, and we're putting it inside commercial printers. It's a very boring experiment. More interesting is something that Twitter were doing, which is to try and physicalize tweets into a cuckoo clock. So what this item does is it plays a little bit of birdsong and puts a cuckoo clock out whenever you get a retweet or a mention or a new follow. It plays some music, and they were giving it away to brands to kind of celebrate their Twitter presence. It plays music when the tweets come, which I think would drive me slightly mad, but it has a volume knob on the side. And I think there's something interesting about breaking down this kind of online-only versus physical representation of what's going on. Maybe this is more like the Facebook hangers. It's not particularly interesting. So let me finish with something which is a very serious kind of experiment, just to move it away from things with faces just for a little bit. We were experimenting recently with what it would be like to have a connected smart appliance in the home. So we decided to make a connected washing machine. What would it be like if your washing machine was connected to the internet? What would you do with it? We wanted to make something which was a potential near-future machine, nothing which was too futuristic, nothing that felt too out of bounds. So what we decided to do was to take an existing washing machine, hack it, connect it to the web, and see what happens. This was our process. We took the Zanussi washing machines, cut the wire in the middle, and hooked it up to the web. So we could almost put the machine in the matrix a little bit. It didn't know it was on the web, but it was. And we would monitor what it was doing. So we could send a notification to our phone as soon as the wash finished, which made us realize you don't want to know when the wash finishes. You want to know 10 minutes before it finishes, so you can keep it on the rinse cycle until you get home. So we experimented with the machine, felt what it was like to have this connected thing, and learnt what the great new features of the machine would be. And out of that, ended up designing a whole new washing machine that we call CloudWash. And we made a short film about that. This is an extract. And we put 3 big features on the front of the machine that we thought would be useful. The first is presets. Do all the complex stuff on your mobile phone, and just have the 3 regular programs on the front of the machine. The second bit is timing and remote control. So you can make sure the machine finishes only at the time when you're going to get in from work for the day, which means that your clothes don't sit there in the wet until you get home. And the last is we decided to put e-commerce on the surface of the machine itself, in-app purchase for physical things. You noticed you're out of washing soap when you're sitting in front of the washing machine, so we put a button right there to buy more. It doesn't monitor what you're doing. That would feel a bit too much like Big Brother. But when you notice that you're out of soap, you press the button, and it sets a reminder to tell me or my wife that next time I'm walking past a supermarket, it's time to pick up more detergent. Or maybe it orders it directly from Amazon Prime. That felt like a nice near-future thing to do. I guess the things I've learnt, and I'll wrap up here, is that in this new world of hardware, it's super, super high engagement. It feels extremely intimate. It's a very peculiar thing to have something print out directly in your home. It's a very peculiar thing for the face to change for this kind of device. And the same is true of a washing machine. It's possible in short runs, so we can experiment now. As marketing people, we don't need to leave it to product designers to develop products to put in the home. We can make just 1,000 and something and bring these small, short-run, high-engagement devices directly into people's homes without going to mass manufacture. And it's brought to life by the web. The web is where the action is. Hardware is hard still, but the web is iterative and full of new experiences. I'll finish right there. Thank you very much. Cheers for having me.